when was the first time you realized you could throw a baseball really well, Nolan?
Growing up and playing Little League, I couldn't throw any harder than anybody else. I could probably throw the ball further than anybody, but not harder. And after my sophomore year in high school, when I went out for the baseball team that spring, I hit my last growth spurt, and when I went out for the team, it was like I had somebody else's arm, and I don't have an explanation for that, but that's the first time that it showed that I had this gift.
And what was it like being on the Mets when you first started in the late 60s, the 69 Mets, the famed Mets team that still resonates today with Seaver on the mound and Koosman and the rest of that staff, and you were in the pen, if I'm not mistaken. Correct, Nolan? Back in that day?
What had happened was I was in and out of the rotation, but I had a military obligation. That was back in the days of the Vietnam War, and I was in a top priority reserve unit in Houston, so every other weekend I had to fly to Houston for my reserve meetings, and because of that, I never was consistently in the rotation, and so when I wasn't in the rotation, they'd put me in the bullpen, and the biggest challenge I had was I had control problems, and I didn't really understand my delivery and what I had to do until I went to the California Angels, and I was then my obligation with the reserves was over, and I started pitching every fourth day.
Huh. So what was it like being a teammate of Seaver, Nolan?
Tom had a big influence on my career because he was the first player I ever played with that was as focused as he was, and his intent was to make baseball a career, and he approached his career that way, and so being a teammate of his and being a friend of his, I was able to observe him on a day-to-day basis, and it definitely had an influence on me.
Toughest hitter you had to face early in your career was who, Nolan?
Oh, back in those days, because I was really just a fastball pitcher, was Willie McCovey, Willie Storied, little left-handed power hitters that were good fastball hitters. And then obviously it changed later in my career when I faced left-handers that didn't swing in bad pitches, didn't help you out, people like Pete Rose and George Brett, Rod Carews, Tony Gwynn, those kind of guys.
What about Clemente? What about him?
Clemente was a very aggressive right-handed hitter, and if he left the ball up out over the plate, he'd hit the ball to any part of the ballpark, and was a fun guy to pitch to because he was such a challenge.
And what about Rose? Walk me through Pete Rose facing him.
Rose, I thought, was a better off-speed hitter than he was a fastball hitter, but he had the unique ability to foul off pitches until he got a pitch that he could handle.
What was the guy that you were most pleased to have hit, Nolan?
I don't know. I hadn't really ever thought about that.
No, that's why I ask it. What do you got? One where like, okay, you know what? I didn't mean to hit him, but I'm glad I did. Anything like that?
Yeah, well, I came close to him.
Nobody? There's nobody just leaps to mind from back in your day? All right. That's all water underneath the bridge from back in your day?
Pretty much so. Pitching's changed considerably. They don't pitch inside much anymore, and when you came up to the big leagues, it was understood that you were going to pitch inside.
So who's the guy that I guess showed you, or when you were coming into the league or growing up, that pitching inside was crucial? Which was that guy?
I tell you who had an influence on me was Don Drysdale. He was an announcer with the Angels
Sure.
when I was there, and on road trips, on whether we were in the plane or the bus, we'd sometimes get to talking pitching and talk about setting up hitters and how you approach them and about pitching inside.
It's pretty incredible. Nolan Ryan here on the Rich Eisen Show. Again, Facing Nolan is a documentary that you should all seek out. It just got screened at South by Southwest, and it's on the upcoming festival circuit right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.